Um, in the back, you have Paul and Pat Surgeon, and I'd like for you to meet them. Paul is trying to drink coffee there, but I think Pat has been into Israel close to 30 times now, and we're all on the board of a ministry that takes people into Israel, and we have a deep passion for the Jewish people as well as the nation of Israel. Having said that, in my 20-plus years that I've been going to Israel, I've never seen the Israelis in a higher state of concern or readiness, where they're running drills now, as you probably know. They're running civil defense drills. They are preparing for what they believe is an ultimate attack on them, with everything that's going on. The question is, what's America going to do? I would make the case, and I did this presentation last weekend in Chicago, that we're seeing the events of Ezekiel 38 to 39 forming right now with the alliances that will ultimately come out of all the turmoil in the Middle East. But I won't go there in terms of, eschatology, because of so much disagreement on, the events and the end times. Having said that, Israel is being surrounded once again by its enemies. And they're very concerned about it. But their single biggest threat right now, if you talk to an Israeli in the know, is Iran. It's not Egypt, it's not Hezbollah in South Lebanon, it's not Hamas in the Gaza Strip. It is the nuclear threat that is posed by Iran. So answer your own question. What have we as a nation done to stop Iran? What have we done? And the answer is nothing. And if this was not a religious group, I would have a euphemism to tell you exactly what I think our program has been.
Your question, are we getting closer or further away? First, if you look at Ahmadinejad and what he said, the parallels to his comments on Hitler are here. Bibi Netanyahu I think it was CNN just once, I thought he could have been clearer. He said, we have to take the man on his word, and he means what he says. Extermination and the elimination of Israel from the face of the earth. And his closing comment was, we're not going back to the gas chambers. Now, that's pretty strong language, but what they're faced with. Besides Iran, and not taking this man in his word and trying to be diplomatic like Europe was with Hitler in the 30s, makes no sense. But for them to strike, a preemptive strike, they have the capability to strike one time and defend themselves on the counterattack. I understand. But they can't resupply. They don't have enough supplies to carry on the war. There are warehouses, U.S. warehouses on Israeli soil with U.S. locks on them to be prepared for crisis in the Middle East. And the last I understood is the President of the United States would not release those warehouses to the Israelis. And they don't have that commitment that they could get in there. Of course, my answer, Jim, would be take the locks off and take it, but that still is a question. The tactics appear to be so orchestrated that the Hezbollah are being armed in southern Lebanon to make strikes on Israeli airports. Now, the rockets aren't that sophisticated. They're more sophisticated than they were in the last attack, the last crisis. But what I was briefed at a Republican Jewish Coalition meeting was that the purpose is to put potholes in the airports so the planes can't return. And they're stranded and they can't take off again. And that is possible. Hezbollah could rain enough missiles down to make potholes, which they can't stop, which without our help or some alternate bases, they can't even get home, let alone strike again, and then they're isolated. If we want to open those warehouses up, they're all alone. The general would know better than I. I think if Iran had the bomb, they'd be flashing it, but they're close to getting it, so the idea is to hold off through Hezbollah's attacks or any other strategy they can come up with until they get it, and they probably will cause some mischief.
One of the problems that we make and I'm glad you raised this issue. One of the problems that we make with regards to Iran is we look at it through Western eyes. We look at it as an American or a Westerner. And normally, the average American, the average Westerner, does not understand the theology of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. They do not understand that he really believes. He's not a judge. He's not like Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. He's a clown, a very dangerous clown, but he's a clown. Ahmadinejad is not. Ahmadinejad believes with all his heart, and since he was 10 years old, he has believed that he was personally called by Allah to usher in the reign of the Mahdi, or the Islamic Messiah. So as a Westerner, we say, now if he fires a nuclear weapon at Israel and he kills millions of Jews, the Jews will undoubtedly return fire, they'll retaliate, and they will hit Tehran, and they'll kill 5 million Iranians. It doesn't matter to him. He's accomplished his objective, because he's brought in the reign of the Mahdi, who in his theology will only return in an atmosphere of bloodshed and chaos. And he's very serious about it. Remember, Ahmadinejad is not the ultimate authority in Iran. The Supreme Council is, led by a guy named Khomeini. Problem is, Khomeini is just as radical in that theology as Ahmadinejad is, as well as the other members of the Supreme Council, and that's why they're there, because they all subscribe to the same theology. Bloodshed and chaos will usher in the reign of the Mahdi. And that's why we cannot look at Iran using American logic and saying it's stupid for him to do that. Well, from our perspective, it is. From his perspective, it's exactly what he's been called.
Yeah, I just have a question. I'm kind of simple in the way I perceive things, but listening to